let's start. How much of Unity do you people know? How much have you learned? Like you people, I have been told, have gone through a few sessions on Unity, but I have also been told that many of you have not actually practically dabbled or played around much with Unity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So how many of you have actually built something with Unity up till now?
No, sir, we have just completed our.
No, and
You have just?
We have just created our, we have just an assignment of asset creation. So we have just completed that, and now we will start exploring Unity.
Okay, so you've not written a single line of code with Unity till
No,
now.
sir.
And have you ever tried running something in Unity, even a demo?
We have we have been shown that the Unity how it works and all, but we have not hands-on on that Unity.
Okay. Do you people know what a game engine is?
Yes.
Okay. So, and if I can ask each of the groups what topics are of interest to you, can you tell me what topics are of interest to your group as Suyash?
So
There must be some topic which is of interest to you, na? It's not like I will blindly start teaching those topics, but I'm just trying to get a sense and calibrate, like, okay, what is it that people are wanting, where are people coming from? Because if I just start teaching something I have in mind, it will not be of any use. It's much better to spend maybe 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes just understanding.
I think basic requirement of all groups must be just starting with basic environment and creating or something.
I would say, sir, creation of ARBR environment and their integration in our application would be an important aspect in each and every group.
Okay. But none of you have actually written code with Unity yet. Yes. But all of you know how to write code.
Yes.
Because obviously you are computer science students in your third year. And all of you have done at least a bit of data structures. You would have built at least 1 or 2 projects up till now, and you would be fairly good at whatever you do based on your own sense of how good you need to be, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll tell you something about myself. My name is Nalin Savara. I run a company called Darksun Technologies. I passed out from NSIT, which is now called NSUT, in 1999. From 95 to 99, I was in NSIT, and I had NSIT Computer Engineering. And while I was in college, from the time I was in my 3rd semester till the time I was in final year and I passed out, I was working part-time on a 3D open terrain game based on Indian mythology. Why was I doing that while I was in college? Not because I needed money and not because I was ambitious, but because when I was in school, I used to only do programming, like some mentally retarded child who doesn't study maths, he doesn't study physics, he only studies coding. So I used to barely pass, but I used to be very good at programming, and then I dropped a year, got into NSIT, and there was one teacher who was my computer teacher who was like my inspiration, and he had got money from investors, and when I was in my 3rd semester, he asked me that, do you want to be a coder, you want to write this game? I said, sure, I'll do that. So this is an open terrain game based on Indian mythology, a bit like your India saga. There's a guy who's a yogi, who's a warrior, who loses the jewels he's supposed to guard in a temple, and so he becomes a yogi and he develops magical powers and stuff, and we worked on it. And by the time I passed out of college, I was doing a job in Bangalore, and when I was in my a year and a half after I was out of college, that company got sold for crores of rupees based on the game engine that I and one more guy and some more people had built when we were working part-time when we were in college. So my former teacher, who was the boss of this company, he called me up and he said, hey, the game engine you were building is going to be $1 million baby, and who better than you to take your baby to the market? And so I left my job in Bangalore and joined this job and became the head of the technology team in 6 months. That is, by the time I had around 2.25 years of experience, I was heading a technology team, and we tried to bring this game to market. Just like Munjals are into making Hero Honda bikes, there used to be the Nandas, who right now run the Escorts group, which makes tractors, but they at that time were making Yamaha bikes in India, and that industrial group, they were the ones who had a company called Escosoft, whose Escosoft Interactive was the company built around the game engine that I was building when I was in college. So even though you are college students and you're just in your 3rd year, in my mind, I think of you people as people who are in my shoes when I was in college, who could potentially build your own game engine, who could build something which can get sold for crores. And so, if I'm teaching you, my focus and my goal is more to inspire and give you direction, show you things that can be done, so that when you step away from the class, you can look back on what I've said and you actually have a sense of direction to do stuff. Am I making sense? Because see, it's not like I can spoon feed you, it's not like I can inject anything into your mind, and all of you are adults. So, but if I show you some of the things that are possible, if I share a bit of the motivation on why things are in a certain way, then the next time you will see that thing, you will try to drive it, you will try to race it, you will try to push it to the limit, and in that process, you would really boost and bump up your skills. Does that make sense? Right? So I'll just fire up my laptop with Unity on it. I'll take a few minutes to show you something, how simple it is to make something, and then I will go into what is actually possible with Unity. So that instead of trying to take a class on computer architecture, you will actually see that, okay, this is possible, we can do it, so why not us? Does that make sense? Okay, so give me a moment, I'll just set up the laptop. And my company, Darksun Tech, back in the time when there was a Nokia OV store, we had around 18.5 million downloads. At the time, Nokia's mobile business was bought out by Microsoft. So we've actually built products that had millions of downloads, and we've actually seen what is it like that in a month you have more than 1 million downloads, because it was over a 14-month period that we had 18.5 million downloads. So hopefully beyond the knowledge that I'm giving you, which could be book knowledge or internet knowledge, you'll also get some glimpse on what runs through my mind or what runs through the minds of teams that build things that can make a massive impact. Because see, whenever you're building a product, your end goal is to touch lives, right? When you're building something interactive, then the biggest thing about any interactive or graphics application that you build is how addictive it will be, how interesting it will be. Because if you're building an insurance system or a banking system, it's possible that the person who's paying you money to build the system is the head of the bank or the head of IT. He's not the person who's using the system. But if you're building something in AR, VR, you're building something in games or graphics, then it is the customer who gets addicted to the game that says that, okay, I have played 5 levels, I am crazily addicted to it, I and my brother are playing 2-player game 10 hours a day. Why don't we spend $10 and buy the unlocked and paid version? Making sense, na? That if you are trying to demo it to somebody that, look, if you are exhibiting your product in Dubai, then why don't you get an AR, VR system made from us? Then that person has to really feel addicted to it. He has to feel, okay, I love this product. He has to feel, arey, show it more when you are demoing it to him. It's not like you can tell him कि आपको ये graphics वाली चीज हम बना के देंगे, आपको ये फायदा होगा और आओ अब आप हमें पैसे दे दो, हम आपकी बना देते हैं. Makes sense, na? So from that perspective, everything I tell you will be from that perspective. Like if you are writing a story or you are writing a script for a Bollywood movie, it should be so interesting that even if it's produced on a low budget, the person, it should just stick in the person's mind. The person should want to see it again and again and again, like you want to hear a song again and again and again. And if you fail to do that when you are building a game, then, or you are building an AR or VR product, then there is no use saying कि हमने बना तो दिया product, क्योंकि कोई उसको फिर consume नहीं करेगा नहीं तो. It's like making food which nobody wants to eat, right? So what I'll do is that I'll start by taking out my laptop, by shooting up Unity, and by showing you something we built, which are web graphics. So do you people also have your laptops? In case I want at some point, maybe we take a break midway through the session and I say, why don't a few of you show me what you have? There is no binding to show me. It's possible that you don't have anything to show, but you know, some of you may have something to show. Some of you may say that, look, we've not done the coding, but why don't you see the graphics? Why don't you see the concept? So if I can give you feedback, if I can give you some inputs, if after you do your course, you can turn that into something that brings in money for you, then I'm happy to help you with that. So I just need to attach the laptop. And you people can also all, if you want, you can take out your laptops. Do you all of you have Unity installed on your laptops? Yes. What version of Unity do you have, or do you all have separate versions? Which one? आप लोगों के पास सबके पास अलग-अलग वर्जन हैं या आपके कॉलेज में एक कोई विशेष वर्जन सिखाया जा रहा है जो कि आप सबने इंस्टॉल किया है यूनिटी के? ठीक है, you all have different versions of Unity. Okay, and they've not taught you anything about coding or building stuff yet. Okay, so let me just attach my laptop to your projector and then we'll start something. You people can also take out your laptops, set them up, so that while I am teaching you something, if there is something you want to try out, you can go ahead and do it. Because you are all adults, you're not kids that you have to ask somebody. But I would request all of you to listen and not talk, because when there's cross talk, then it kind of demotivates others also.
Guys, does it look nice? The moment I entered and I'm hearing this.
What?
You're taking on the cross talk.
No, I'm not saying that. Ma'am, I'm not scolding them. I'm just telling them to take out your laptops.
It's not even scolding. It's just that having a comment.
No,
moment I entered.
No, ma'am, see, you entered at a very strategic time. Like you have those memes that I am watching a movie and my parents enter at exactly the wrong moment. So I was actually no. So I was actually saying that I was asking them what version of Unity they had, and I said that while I am talking, they can keep their laptops open with Unity. Yeah. So if they want to try something, they can. And while I was saying that, I said that if you are trying, you can try it, but just don't do crosstalk. Yeah. It's not that they were doing crosstalk.
No, but they are used to it.
No, ma'am, don't worry. I'll keep them captivated.
So I'm finding it and.
Ma'am, you sit.
No, sir, I have a meeting. I'll go. I'll just come to meet you.
So nice to meet you, ma'am.
Yeah. So I cannot, at the time I was in meeting when I was getting a call from you. So I thought I should barge in and I should see that how many students.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much, sir. And I'll definitely, you'll be ending up your session around 5:15. I would definitely,
It could go until 5:30 also because
5:30, right.
Yeah.
So if I'm free from that meeting, I'll come and I'll see.
Okay. It's your wish, ma'am, as you wish. I'm good with the students.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ma'am. Okay, so. Okay, so how do I attach this to the projector? Can somebody help me with that? Can somebody help me attach this? ये projector से कैसे मैं attach करूँ?
Yeah.
हाँ. आप. Okay. How do I attach it to the projector? But anyways, so I'll come back to the topic and the thing. Like, this is the projector का?
For math, we need to have HDRP.
So I have a HDMI to Mac connector. I just need the HDMI cable from the projector.
HDMI cable, this one.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Okay. So let me just hope. Just a sec. There are multiple inputs. Is there a remote or something for this thing? Okay, so great. So I'm going to fire up Unity, and how many of you know the story of Hello World? How many of you know the story of Hello World? In fact, to make it more interesting, I've got some toffees. So what I'll do is that if I'm feeling happy at somebody's level of motivation, I'll throw them a toffee. I was actually looking for chocolates, but then I said कि अगर 4 chocolates वाला मैं pack खरीद के लाऊं तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा कम पड़ जाएंगे, and then it will look very bad that I give 1 or 2 people and then others don't get rewarded. ठीक है ना? ठीक है. So first I'll give you 1 for helping me set up this thing. ठीक है ना? ठीक है. So welcome. So I'm just now trying to figure out what do I need to do next. You had got the HDMI, na? Just help me if you can with that. Maybe there's a problem with this thing. Okay, so I'll tell you the story of Hello World. Like, does anybody know who were the inventors of the C programming language? Does anybody know who were the inventors of the C programming language?
Sir, this one is loose.
Thanks. Great. ठीक है. Does anybody know who are the inventors of the C programming language? Okay, and one more guy. 2 लोग थे. So they were Kernighan and Ritchie. Brian Kernighan and Dennis Ritchie, not David Ritchie. But you can still have 1 toffee. Okay. So the idea of a Hello World program is that whenever you are starting to code with a new environment or work with a new language, there are complexities and challenges. When you take a program, whether you copy paste it from somebody or you are able to make it yourself, which just shows Hello World on the screen, that means you have figured out how to send output to the output device. You figured out how to compile the program. You figured out how to run the program. So I'm going to show you a Hello World situation with Unity. And then you can all, whenever you use Unity, you can write your own Hello World pieces. And then once you have a Hello World piece, or you know how to make a Hello World piece, please give me your cable.
It will not fit yours.
Achha, it will not fit. Okay. So once you have.
So do you have 2 cables? Yeah, you don't know. Actually, mine is for new version of it.
Okay, I must be having another one. So once you have made a Hello World program for any environment, that means that that can serve as the basis for building more stuff. No matter how difficult it is, no matter how easy it is, you then know how to send output to an output device. You know how to run a program, and maybe you would also figure out how to take inputs from a user. If you don't have a Hello World program and you don't know how to do a Hello World situation, then what happens is that there is something in software engineering called analysis paralysis. Do you know what's analysis paralysis?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you know. What is it? Tell me.
So thinking and researching about a topic this much that you won't be able to actually execute at a certain point.
Great answer. Oops, sorry.
Nice answer.
So the thing is that if I have the ability to shoot or to execute, then I can always iteratively refine my execution. But if I am only sitting and studying and analyzing, then I'll be stuck in analyzing. So when you build a Hello World program, it helps you get past the analysis paralysis you tend to be stuck with whenever you're learning a new language. Have you people heard the 90-10 rule of coding and programming? You haven't? Okay, we learned this when we were in college, when I was in NSIT. We had a professor who had written his own database system for the supercomputer that India was building. So that guy was actually a guy who was very good at coding. And so that guy said that the first 90% of the project takes 90% of the time. The remaining 10% of the project takes another 90% of the time. So that means unless you are able to move very fast to get something up to the Hello World phase and then iteratively refine it, you will not be able to deliver anything. Makes sense, na? So that's just a lesson we learn, and that's a lesson I'll ask all of you to remember and keep in mind, because I want all of you to succeed with your projects. That if I am coming here and giving you classes, then whether I get good feedback or I don't get good feedback, I want you to be able to take away at least a few small snippets from my class even if they are one-liners like this one, which can actually help you. Making sense, na? So that's what I'll try to do. I'll teach you some bigger concepts also, but most importantly, my focus will be to give you something useful that you can take away from here. So right now, I'm looking for another HDMI cable, and I hope I have one. I think I do. But so yeah, this is running again. So what I'll do is I'll keep it this on it. So okay, this is. Do you recognize what is this?
Steam.
Yeah. How many of you have Steam installed? Great. Do you people have Steam? How many of you have logins on Steam? Okay. What is your favorite Steam game? Okay. Which one? Brawlhalla. Okay. Which one did you people play? CS. Okay. Great. Oops, sorry. These are getting. Look. Let me through again. I'm nervous now. So, nahi. Which one is the second one? Okay. You are also CS. Sorry. So yeah. So yeah, this is Steam, and the reason I am showing you Steam is because there are many games on Steam which are made by very small teams. There are many cases of a one-man team making something that brings him $7 or $8 lakhs in a year. And I'm talking of this because when you are thinking of a product, that's how you can build a product, because you think that if somebody can build it, then why can't I? Makes sense, na? And that is more important than what I or anybody can teach you. So yeah, I'll open Unity. Now, I had actually intentionally kept Steam open because I was hoping that I'll get to show you people this thing. Like, apart from Steam, there's another company called Epic.
Yes.
You must have heard that apart from Unity, there is also the Unreal Engine.
Yes.
Do you know what is the name of the company that made the Unreal Engine? It's Epic. So the thing is that I'm talking of it because Unity is not the only game engine. Like, how many of you know JavaScript? Okay. How many of you know C#? None of you, right? So, there's another engine called Cocos 2DX. Now, that engine, it was originally built with Objective-C and it became popular when iPhone was launched. But later, it was ported to C++, and now it is ported to JavaScript also. So, if you are using Cocos 2DX, even if you are building a Hello World program, you can literally write a game, a 2D game or even a 3D game, just using JavaScript. I'm making sense, na? And the thing is that some people will say that why do you need to learn 5 technologies or 10 technologies? But many times when you look beyond the confines of what you are used to, you get creative ideas. And okay, so this is Unity. I went to the Unity hub. You saw that, right? I clicked a new project. So I'll click a empty 3D core project. I will call it Munjal Univ 1, and I'm creating it. So in a moment this will open up. I'm using Unity 20.3.4. It's nothing sacred about that, but I'm just showing you. So that what I'll do is I'll write a hello world kind of a few lines of code, so that if nothing else, if you know that you can make a hello world, you know that you can make a fortune telling app, you know that you can move some text around, you can move some 3D objects around, then when you go home, if nothing else, you can make a rough version of whatever you are planning to make. You know, even if it says this is a rough version, but still you can do something. And you have to start somewhere, because if you start just with ideas, you will get stuck with analysis paralysis. Makes sense, na? And that is your greatest danger, because you know that whenever you are trying to implement something in the real world, the last 10%, which is the polish, which is the finish, which is the icing on the cake, that is what will take more time than the remaining 90%. So this is Unity. If I click run over here, you can see this cursor, right? So if I click run, it will run this code. This code is empty. See this? Okay, so this is running. It's not doing anything, right? Now I'll tell you something about Unity. So over here, these are the tabs. One is the scene, right? One is the game, that when I'm running the game, this is how it will look with the current state of the game. And then there is the Unity asset store, for which I can no longer get it from here, but I get it from a window. Or I click within that window and it will open it in a browser. Makes sense? So, and when a scene is basically the set of objects that will be displayed on the screen at a given point in time. The word scene is not just with Unity, but I think in your 5th semester or 6th semester, depending on the university, you would have a course in computer graphics, right? You have a course, right, in computer graphics? Do you have it in the final year or when? You don't have a computer graphics course? Okay, so if you read still without having a course in computer graphics, any book on computer graphics, then they will talk of the concept of a scene and a scene graph or a scene hierarchy. When you say scene hierarchy, then to give you an example, let's say I'm making a game where there's a car with 4 wheels rolling across a terrain. Okay, so the car is basically like a cube, a body, and it's got 4 wheels which are rotating components. If I have a way to simulate the steering wheel, then the steering wheel which is attached to the car, the body of the car, can still be rotated about the axis of the steering wheel. So this is my scene, that I have a ground, I have a car which has 4 wheels which rotate, but which are essentially attached, rigidly attached, like rigid bodies, to the body of the car with axles and whatever other suspension there is. So the reason I'm talking about this concept of scene in computer graphics is because whenever you read a computer graphics book, like Folly Van Damme, for example, you will see that they also talk of a scene graph. When we are building things practically, we don't think normally of a scene graph, but of a scene hierarchy. What is the difference between a graph and a hierarchy? Anybody wants to try to guess that based on your data structures knowledge? Anybody wants to try? Yeah, try.
Like representation of data between the 2 instances, or if it's a 3D graph, it can take 3 instances, 3 variables. But hierarchy is a structure where it defines and each and every entity has been affiliated by its own rank or a class.
Just stand up if you can and repeat it. Ha, bolo.
So the graph is like a representation of variations in between 2 quantities. If it's a 3D graph, it might take 3 quantities or elements entities. And while in hierarchy there is a systematic level segmentation where each and every entity is affiliated to its rank.
Look, firstly, I appreciate that you tried. So you deserve full marks for trying, and not 1, but 2 trophies delivered to you. The second thing is that when you are talking in mathematical or computer science terms, a graph is like a network. Like a network of nodes, where all the nodes are linked to each other, and the links between nodes are called a path. The graph can be directed or undirected. When a graph is directed, then the links between the nodes have a direction. That node 1 can be connected to 2, but it's possible that 2 may not be connected to 1. I'll show you a diagram to illustrate it. And if it's an undirected graph, then all the connections are. So this is an example of a directed acyclic graph. I'm showing it like this because I want you guys to go and look at the example later. Making sense, na? So you can see that these are the nodes of the graph, and all the nodes have a direction to them. So from node E, you cannot go back to node A or to node C. Getting it, na? The arrows are showing the direction. And I'm explaining this even though it seems unrelated to Unity, because this is one of the basic concepts of computer graphics. That if I go deeper into Unity without telling you the basic concepts, then there will be things जहाँ पे तुमको बहुत सारा कुछ रटना पड़ेगा और बाद में तुम्हें एहसास होगा कि 100 चीजें रटने से अच्छा एक फंडामेंटल चीज अगर बता देता मैं तो आपको रटना नहीं पड़ेगा, you will just understand the linkages, right? So this is the directed acyclic graph. Acyclic means that there are no cycles, that there is no directing link that goes from node E and comes back to E. Makes sense, na? Okay. And this is and you also have the concept of an undirected graph where they could be connected but without any arrow. It means that if there's a path from A to C, then there can be a path from C to A. So the reason this is relevant is because when you are representing a scene in computer graphics, then you have the concept of a scene graph. That is the relationships between different objects in a scene. Makes sense, na? You can also have a scene hierarchy. Hierarchy is like the hierarchy of a sarkari daftar, where it determines who is on top, who is the below him, who is below him, and who is yet below him. Making sense, na? So I'll show you something like so I'm going to show you an example of a scene hierarchy. So like this is an example of a scene hierarchy. So this is actually an ad for a component, but I'm showing it to you because this is an example of how different objects in a scene are parents and children and sub-children of children. The reason this is relevant is because if you are representing a scene where there is a ground with a car which has 4 wheels rotating to it, then it's like the rectangular part of the body of the car is one object in the scene and the tires are its children objects. That if the car is being moved here and there, whether you are rolling it on the ground and the tires are rolling, or whether you are lifting it from one place to another, wherever the car goes, the distance, the spatial relationships. Spatial, I don't mean special, I mean SPATIAL, which means the relationships in space between the body of the car and the tire, they are always preserved. Making sense, na? That even if the tires are rotating on the axis, the relationship between the body and the tires is always preserved. It's always rigid unless the car is deformed. So I am talking of this because I was going to show you a Hello World program, right? Now this is a sample scene. As you can see, it says, can you all read from behind? If anybody wants, they can come forward also so that you can read what is on the screen. Because if you can't read what is on the screen, then I'm just talking in the air. Makes sense, na? But it is your thing, whatever you are comfortable with, and I'll talk to you as adults. So this is the sample scene. Now, how do I make it say hello world to me? I right click on the scene and I see a menu. This menu is called a context menu. I go to game object and in UI I select a text object. Whenever you people sit down after I have gone, you can try out each and every one of these objects. You know what I'm saying? That nobody is stopping you from experimenting with even 10 things, with even 50 things. Delete and throw it away, or keep 100 folders for 100 experiments. So I have put in some text, and now you can see that I don't see any text. Now I see text, right? So this is the coordinate system where I can set up I click it and it rotates the view. And I want to turn it into into a hello world, right? That's what I want, right? That I want to show hello world on the screen. Yeah.
So earlier, when you were selecting text, it was showing two options, text and text mesh pro. What is the difference between the two?
They are just two different classes with two different types of features to do the same thing. I would suggest you to go back and experiment. Wherever you have curiosity, keep a notebook, just make a note, text versus text mesh pro, and experiment.
For me, actually, only one option is being shown. That's what I'm asking.
Okay, in your Unity, which version of Unity do you have? Okay, so I have Unity 20.3.43. So it's possible that it's different in a different version of Unity, but it's a very good question because in newer versions of Unity, to make the size of the generated code smaller, they don't add everything. They add only a limited number of things. That is one possibility. The second possibility is that when you were selecting the new project type, then did you select 3D application and core 3D? Okay, so maybe it's you need to do a little research, because I also, when I'm opening something in a newer or older version of Unity, I end up having to do a bit of research. So I have said hello world, right? Hello world to okay, so this is you're seeing this. Now if I want, I can add a button also. I go to sample scene and I say game object. I go to UI. I can add a button. I'm purposely adding a button because I just want to show you more and more features. So that same thing I was saying about hierarchy, na? So when you have a button, then if you click this arrow next to the button, then it shows this text. As you can see, this text is like a child object of the button. That button is the parent object. Button is the superior object and text is the sub-object. This is important because whenever you hide a parent object or you rotate a parent object, the same transformations are applied on the children objects also. Like the car and the wheels of the car I was saying, that the wheel can rotate but the body will stay where it is. And the distance between the wheel and the body will stay the same. Right? So this is, I have added a button which says, see, because I have selected text and I am pulling it up and down. So like that example I was giving you, that the wheels can be moved, but they will still remain at attached to the car. And the car will be deformed if I move the wheels while away from the car. So over here also, like if I select the parent object and I move this left and right, you can see that the object is deformed because it's not natural for the attached text to be outside it, right? Making sense, na? So whenever, the reason I'm saying it is because when I was learning Unity, there were times when these things were not clear. I'm talking about some time in 2012. At that time, Unity was not even so popular. So if I press run, see what will happen. It says hello world to students, right? But I'm not seeing the full hello world. Remember, I had said hello world to students of Munjal University. So I'm intentionally done this to show you something, that if this is the text, I can set its properties. If the properties were different, then it would not be cut like this, right? So if I say vertical overflow, and I say horizontal overflow, and but I have not done it for the text where I'm saying hello to Munjal students. I am doing this for the text which is a subtext of the button. Remember? So I will do the same for the text which says Munjal students. It says hello world to students of Munjal University. I come down and I will say overflow. Makes sense, na? So you can see that while the scene is running, I can change these properties. I don't have to stop it and rerun it. Okay? I can also say vertical overflow to overflow. And then if I change the horizontal overflow to wrap, then it will wrap. Another thing I can do is that if I want, I can change the position of this. So let's say I change it to 0. And I change this also to 0. Getting it? So we've learned that the 0, 0 of this is the center of the screen. Makes sense, na? Now what will happen if I stop the program and I run it again? Then the properties that were changed while running it are not changed in the designer. They are changed only when at design time, while I'm not running a program, I change it. If I'm running it, they could be changed by some script also. Getting it? I could write a script to bounce the text around, but it should not happen when I stop running it. The code and the design has changed because I was manipulating it with a script, right? That is the reason it doesn't change. So what I'll do is that I will change it. I need to change this text and I will change it. Horizontal overflow, vertical overflow also overflow. And I will change the location also. So, and now one more thing I will do is that I will add an empty game object to the scene. You are seeing this option, create empty. So I create an empty game object. I just let it be called game object. And now I can add things to it, right? While the game object is selected, I can click add component, right? Or if I want, I can go to project. I am purposely, instead of saying add component, going to the project, because just like I showed you these 3 windows, I wanted to show you this also, right? So these are the scenes folder where I have my sample scene. I will save the scene. See, it will give me a file. It will ask me for a file name. Okay, so it seems it has saved it by this. So I'll say save as. I'm purposely doing it slowly so that you can see it. Because sometimes it happens that a guy who's very fast teaches something and then when you go back, you say, "Arey, mili nahi raat jo dhoond rahe the." If anybody has questions like this girl had, that in my unity I can't see this, you are welcome to ask. I'll not feel bad. I may see that, okay, I'll answer it later, but I will keep it in mind. I am not a politician who will say, "ठीक है, हम आएंगे वापस और आएंगे नहीं वापस." So I have shown you this scenes folder. So this Munjal test scene is here. I can say new scene. I've saved this scene. I say cancel. Now, logically, I should have saved this scene in this folder. I put it in this folder, and I'll say save. Now I say create. I normally create a folder. The reason I create a folder is so that my project is organized. Because if the scenes, the assets, the different things are mixed up, then it is not a good thing because it's very difficult for another person to work with that. And if somebody is giving you marks or you're working in a professional environment, they will say that, look, this is a low quality output. If you are organizing it, they will say that, okay, this person at least seems to be methodical in what he or she is doing. So under scripts, I will go and I will say create a script. I'll create a C# script. It has created a C# script. I will call it, Munch script 1. I double click on it. Okay, so by mistake I've called it dmunch script 1, right? I'm not going to change it because that's a waste of time. Instead, I'll show you what I had planned to show you. And I'm going through this so that after you have seen a few of the things that I'm showing you, maybe in the next 5 or 10 minutes max, you'll have a very clear idea of how to do a bunch of things when you go away from me. So it's opened it and I'm just waiting. Meanwhile, if I want, I can see. It will take a moment. I don't know if it's crashed or it's not crashed. It's called dmunch script. Yeah. You can see it. So I can. You people know. Can you understand this much of code? You can understand it, na? So what I'll do is that I will say. Okay, Unity engine.ui, and I will say public makes sense, na? So I've made these things, and I will also make a on-click event. Right, and in the on click I will say that if just a second. You're seeing it, what I've done, set active in brackets true. And I can do something better than this. If I can actually toggle its active. Like, because all of you know enough coding that you will see that, okay, so easily I can do a bunch of things. Makes sense, na? So why is it showing me this green line below this? It says game object.active is invalid. Use game object.active self or active in hierarchy. You are seeing this, na? So I should say .active self. Now see, even though I have been working with Unity since 2012 or 13, I myself did not know in what version they changed this. But the bigger thing is that if I know how to get from point A to B, I don't need to know what is which turning. I know that I have to go straight, I have to turn left, and somewhere down the road I'll find what I have to find. So it is there. Now I will go to this project and I will say run it. What I want is, as you might have guessed, that when I click the button, it should toggle the text. That if the text is visible, it should make it invisible, and if it's invisible, then it should make it visible. See, you can see that this has fallen out of the screen, right? So I'll need to show you some way to force the objects to take some location relative to the corners of the screen, right? So I click this, nothing happens. Right? So I'll show you how to make attach a event to a button. This is my button. I've clicked it. Now there's an arrow on it. It's selected. So this is on click. So first it will ask me where is the thing. It's asking if it's in the assets or it's in the scene, right? Right? Now this is something which nobody has told you till now, so pay attention, because this is something which if you get wrong, then you will not be able to use the knowledge I am giving you. First, I will go to the game object and I will attach this script to the game object. I go to add component, it has added the dmunch script. Makes sense, na? Now I can see that I have declared some members variables in this. In the dmunch script, there is public text hello world 1 and public button, but they are not being shown. So is it because I have not compiled it, or is it because I had not saved the script? Because if I have not saved the script and I have put the script on this, now I saved the script and you can see that the member objects of that script are visible here, right? So I will drag this piece of text and I put it onto text hello world. I will drag this button and I put it onto button hello show. Makes sense, na? Now I will save my scene and I will run it. No, I need to do one more thing. In my button, I need to add the event handler. Making sense, na? So I click on event handler. This is the assets. It's not in the assets, but I want something which is alive in my current scene hierarchy. So the object on which I have attached the script is this object. Can you see it? What is it called? Yeah, game object. Okay. So I will select the game object and I will attach a event handler from this. I click this and in game object, I don't see my function, right? You're seeing it? I don't see it. So in game object, there is a dmunch script. Making sense, na? So I'm not calling any of the game object functions because these are the member functions of the game object, which are not of any use to us. I need to go to dmunch script and over there I click on click. Make sense? So I have attached dmunch script 1.onClick to this button, right? So if I now click, I first save it. Why do I save it? Just as a precaution. Because even though Unity uses C#, which is a managed language, it should not crash. But logically, anything can crash anywhere if you are destructive enough. Making sense, na? Like if you have to go home and make this, all of you can make it, right? Right? Now I can do one more thing. I can add a object. I can add a cube. This is the cube. I can make it big. And I can move it above. I will move it to. And another thing I had said was that I want to change the position of this button, right? I need to change the position of the button, na? So I will go here. I need to anchor the button. So I will anchor it and make its position relative to the bottom left hand corner. Okay. So if I go now, to the button, it's in the bottom left hand corner, right? If I make the position x and y 0 and 0, then it is exactly in the bottom left hand corner of the screen. You're seeing it? The button, I have changed the position to 0, 0. And so it's in exactly the bottom left hand corner. Make sense? If I say maximize on play and I close it, now I run it again, just see. So even over here it's in the bottom corner, because I have set its position as 0, 0 relative to the bottom left hand corner anchors. What if I click this again and now I keep it in the center? Makes sense, na? So if I have set its anchor to center, then see the position of the button has automatically changed. You're getting it? Because relative to the center on the current screen size, the position is minus 375 minus 170. If now I change the position to 0, 0 and I have set the anchor to the center, then the button goes right to the center. Making sense, na? This is true of all the objects, even of this cube. So let us say that right now I need to see what is my, as you can see, the cube does not have something it is attached to. Making sense. But the cube in itself is a game object. Because this thing about positions relative to the center hold only for 2D objects which are aligned relative to a canvas. You see this canvas, only those which are aligned relative to a canvas have their position set the way I had set the position of the button. Something which is in a 3D world, like a cube, it does not have any anchors, because in the 3D world there is no concept of a corner. A corner is possible only if you have a rectangle or a shape of a limited size. Makes sense, na? So okay. So now let us see, where is my cube? My cube is here. I want to move it towards the center. Let's say I set its y to 0, but it doesn't seem to serve a purpose. I have a game object. The game object is also here, right? So it seems that for my 3D coordinate system, the canvas is kept relative to 0, 0 of the 3D coordinate system, and as I go upwards, like if I go upwards, then the y is increasing, right? And if I go rightward, then the x is increasing. Making sense, na? I'm showing it to you because it is possible to align the canvas differently. I can align the canvas such that the center of the screen is the 0, 0 of the canvas. But I'm not doing it right now. I'm leaving it as a R&D exercise for you people. I'll give you a bunch of R&D exercises like this, so that when you go home, you do 4 or 5 things that I ask you to do. Then you will have some confidence कि हम कुछ तो कर सकते हैं Unity से. Makes sense, na? So that's what I'm doing. So one more thing about the cube is that let's see how it looks now. I don't see my cube anywhere, right? You're seeing it? I don't see my cube. But if I go to over here, let's say I don't maximize on play. I go here and now I run it. I'm doing this purposely because I want to show you something. Because if I'm showing and telling, na, you will get it. If I give a theory of it, it will not be of any use. So this is the game. Now I see the scene. So in the scene, this is where my cube is, right? Right? Now let us say I set my cube to 0 and 0. Makes sense, na? So it's in the corner. Now let us say I set my scale to 10. I set it to 20. I set it to 70. Let's say I set this also to 70. This also to 100. Making sense, na? I'm just showing you that even somebody who pretty much knows what he's doing, when you are trying to get the visual appearance right, na, you have to experiment. Makes sense, na? So when you go back, experiment, try to at least set a layout for your project. So I will set it. I will set it to 100, 100, 100. I'll set this to maybe I'll set the Y scale to 250. Makes sense, right? And I will set its position to 0, 0, 0. And now you know something about something, right? If I want, I can make another button and or I can, in that button only, I can change the object which I am showing and hiding. Makes sense, na? So I will, instead of showing and hiding the text, I set it to this, the cube. So I don't see the cube in the scene. Do I see it? I don't see it, right? Why don't I see the cube in the scene? Do you know why? It's a valid question, right? That if you take the knowledge I am giving you and I have said कि तुम किसी भी ऑब्जेक्ट को दिखाओ और छुपा सकते हो और तुम मेरे पथ पे चल रहे हो और वो काम ना होए तो मतलब जायज सवाल है, हाँ? तो I'll show you why you are not seeing the cube in the scene. Okay, so I will make another type of object, public game object, right? Makes sense, na? So I will save it, and now I will show you. See, it's reloading the script, and yeah. So see this. Now it's showing GO1, right? Right. So let us see what it shows us with GO1. So if it shows us all the objects in the scene, making sense, na? You know about inheritance, right? Yes. So all the objects in Unity are derived from the game object. So when we search for a game object, all the descendants of the game object class you can see in the drop down. But in the earlier one, I had said the text object, right? The text hello world, I had declared it of type public text, and this is the name of the field, right? So if I click, I'll not see that descendant. But if I click over here, I will see all the descendants of game object. Makes sense, na? Now let us say I add a text mesh pro also, since somebody had asked me about it. See this. You're seeing this? That it's an external package. Making sense, na? So possibly in your system, this is not installed. Maybe I ran a project which said that you need to have this installed, and after I installed it, it added the option to add this object to my menu. Making sense, na? So like I've already had some vague idea of this, but I waited a little bit to give you the answer so that it makes sense for the whole class. Makes sense, na? So if you are using a Unity project, it shows some extra menus, extra options, extra objects, and you are not seeing it in your installation. It is possible that the guy who was using it, he has some things installed in his Unity installation. Makes sense, na? I intentionally gave you a slightly vague reason because I wanted you to see this. Making sense, na? So I will not select the text mesh pro, but it's many of the text display objects are derived from the text object of Unity, default text object. So let us say I add an object which is derived from text, then you will see. So I think it has already added a text mesh pro object, perhaps. I don't know. You see it? It has added it. And now I didn't want it to get added, but it has added it. So I'll be forced to import TMP essentials. I'm just showing it to you because you know how many of you know about version control? How many of you know about Git? Okay, why don't the rest know about Git? Okay, I don't need to know, but I'm just telling you that many times when you are playing around with somebody's Unity project, na, even if some friend is showing you and you say, "Arey, main isko badalta hu," so by mistake you might make so many changes that it may not be possible for you to come back to the original state. So whenever you are working with or editing somebody's Unity project, it is always important to take a backup. If possible, try to learn about a version control system like Git, which you will be using in the industry. Whether you are doing games and graphics or not, knowledge of Git will help you. Makes sense, na? Whichever company you join, whether you join Microsoft or whether you join Google or whether you join AK software which makes inventory management software and think that मैं 6 महीने इनके यहाँ काम करूँगा, सबको Git और version control की knowledge तुम्हें काम आएगी. हाँ? तो यहाँ पे मैंने गलती से I imported TMP essentials. Now it's saying import the essentials and extras. So I will import these also. I'm just showing you what is the price of randomly adding something without thinking about the consequences. Makes sense, na? And sometimes if I have to remove it, like I myself am not sure how easy or difficult it is to remove it. But still, it has added both of them. And now let us see what all my project folder has. Just a second. Project. So in my assets, I have some extra folders. Many times when you import an asset, whether from asset store or from somewhere else, it will add some folders to your project. Makes sense, na? And many times that's why I said that it's very important that if possible, you should have a version control system, and you will have to learn that on your own. But and it's not difficult to learn. So I will now add something more, that I will say active cell, I can now add something to also show and hide the game object. So I should have actually said GO1 so that I don't have to type so much and waste your time typing. Making sense now? So now let us see that it will hide and show the cube. Logically yes, because we've selected the cube over there as the game object. So I don't see the cube here. I've come to this view and it seems that it has hidden it. I say it again. So I think this is the cube, right? Okay, so it has hidden the cube. It has hidden the cube, right? Okay, so I can click this and enable it. See this? I can force it to be shown. This is the enable button. Making sense, na? This is what happens when we call or set active. So I want it to be in the center. So I can see that it's 179, 164 will make it near the center. I want it on top of the button. Now I can still not see the cube, right? Right? But obviously this is something that if you people make this program, you can go back and debug it. Right? Now I am not going to go deeper into this, but as you can see that whenever you are making something visual, you need to first get the look right. Because if you don't get the look right, you might never be able to get the look. Making sense, na? So this is something where I could perhaps upload it somewhere and share it with you, and you could mail me your debug version. It will make me very happy. If I come back for another class, then I could use that as a starting point for discussions. Makes sense, na? So yeah, this is one set of things I'm just showing you. So this is Unity. Now you all know how to make a hello world program, right? Making sense, na? I can also do something more, like I can add a second button. I've used the option duplicate here, right? And I can do something here, right? I can come to this script and I can have this, right? And instead of hiding the text, I can do something better than that. First I will delete this and I can say I'm showing you this because if I don't show it, it might be a very long time before you actually come to this. So I can say replace in brackets makes sense, na? You are getting what this code is doing, na? Okay. So you have another button, and I will say you are getting what I am doing now, because see, when I was first doing it, it took me a lot of time. So in button, I can change the event handler. I can go to dmunj script and I can say on click button 2. Makes sense, no? So I will say save and I will run it. See this. So I'm not trying to go deep into graphics right now because see, if you don't have this basic knowledge, na, and I come and teach you this after a week, then for 1 week you will be idle. Making sense, ना? क्योंकि ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं कोई गुरु हूँ और तुम मेरे भक्त हो कि मेरे लफ्जों को तुम दोहराओगे 100 बार. You know, if I show you something which you can do that and you can do 100 more things. But, so I will say bye. So you can see that it is still like the positioning has to be different. I'll move this around. Like I had shown you that whatever we are changing by going to the scene tab while the game is running, we can. So there is some logical error, right? What is the logical error? I know what the logical error is. I did that purposely. I say s is equal to s dot replace. Because this function does not replace. It returns a value with the value of the input replaced. So now let us see what happens. You seeing it? Another thing you will notice is that I did not stop this button. You're getting it? If I am changing the code while my code is running, many times the code changes are applied. Many times if applying the code changes can cause an error or there are errors, then the running program will start showing errors. Makes sense, na? So, and I will. So you have learned a bunch of things. Makes sense, na? Of course, I need to change the buttons and I will change the button alignments. So I will change this to left and okay, I will change, but just changing it to left will not change anything because it will just change the coordinates to reflect it. And I will change this to right. Or maybe I should change this also to, I'll change it to right. And I will change it to 0, right? So I have this. So you have a bunch of things. Now if you search a demo, how to make a rotating cube with Unity, and you get 5 or 7 lines of code, then you can put that code into this. You can make the cube rotate. You can make 4 cubes and you can actually make 1 cube the gun, 1 the bullet and 1 the target and 1 more cube which is like the target replacement. Makes sense, na? So you have at least some takeaway now from this class. So why is it not saying it? Because we have changed the object which is being manipulated. So if I change over here the game object from cube to the hello again, then it will work. So if I change this to, I'm just showing you that, okay, if I change it to Makes sense, na? So okay. So now that is one set of things. You have as your takeaway some basic knowledge of Unity that you can build stuff with. Another thing I could do is that I could make the cube much bigger, and maybe if I make it Z direction further back, it will become visible. Now, basically, I think the problem with this cube is that this cube is so big that we are inside the cube. So when the camera is looking, it's looking backwards at the cube. So if I set Z to minus 200, now we will perhaps see the cube. another thing that helps when you are doing graphics programming is to be slightly obsessive. Like, so now also I don't see it, but if I play with it, if I tinker with it, I will figure out what I'm doing wrong. And I'm purposely taking you through this. In fact, at the end of the class, I'll share you my website and I'll give you a link. I'll make a page and you people can download this. I'll make a zip file with this and you can download it. And then you can play with this. Making sense, na? Because if I've spent an hour or two explaining this code, then you know what is it, right? Right? And you'll have your ideas कि जैसे ये यानी कि मैं जो गलतियां कर रहा हूं तुम्हारे मन में ऑलरेडी आइडियाज होंगे कि कैसे उन गलतियों को सुधारो. सही है ना? ठीक है? So this is one set of things I had to walk you people through. Now the second set of things I am going to walk you through is that they had asked me to tell you what is a render pipeline and what is the HDRP and what are shaders. हाँ? अब इस पॉइंट पे मैं अगर ये चीजें बता रहा हूँ कुछ हद तक आप में से कुछों को लगेगा कि कैसे बेतुकी डिस्कनेक्टेड सेकेंडरी पीसेस ऑफ नॉलेज में आप पे फेंक रहा हूँ, बट डोंट वरी, दे एक्चुअली हैव अ पर्पस. इनका कुछ तुक है और एंड दे आर नॉट डिस्कनेक्टेड फ्रॉम व्हाट आई एम टेलिंग यू, राइट? सो हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू हैव हर्ड द वर्ड शेडर? हाँ. Okay, in Minecraft. Okay, what is a shader in Minecraft? Yeah. Say, खड़े हो जाओ यार और बोलो, जोर की बोलो. I'm happy to hear answers, even if they are wrong.
More about like shaders, but it's I think a mod kind of stuff that we apply.
Okay.
On a pre-made environment.
Yeah. So a shader basically just. Just one second. I'm trying to figure out why this has gone away. So, just a sec. Can somebody help? Okay, now this is good. So a shader, basically, it's like a mod. It modifies something, right? So if I have drawn a drawing or I have an outline drawing, please listen. If I have an outline drawing and I shade it, right? I can shade it with a pencil. Makes sense, na? Or I can shade it with a color pencil. Making sense, na? So I'm actually going to come to something much more difficult and complicated than this. इसलिए please मेरी बात सुन लो. So what happens is that when you are doing computer graphics, let's say I have the cube that we were talking about, and I want to show a gradient. You know what is a gradient? That it's going from one color to another. Let's say I want this vertex to be red, and I want the other vertex to be blue. And I want, then if the color is changing from red to blue, then it's like it will change. If it's changing from black to white, then there will be many shades of gray in between. Making sense, na? And let's say I have one more vertex, I have a triangle, and the third vertex is of yet another color. So there will be three different shades of colors there. Making sense, na? It's making sense, na? So in that case, this is an example of a vertex shader. That if you are assigning colors to vertices, that there are three vertices, let's say of a triangle. I'll show you a picture also of that. But if you have three vertices in a triangle, you are assigning different colors to each of the vertices, then obviously you'll have to extrapolate from one color to another. Making sense, na? So I'll show you an example. So this is an example that on the pyramid they have assigned different colors to its vertices. Making sense, na? So over here you have a red color, over here you have a blue color, and over here you have a green color. So don't worry about the text that is written, just see that it's shifting here from red to blue. Makes sense, na? I'm using this as a basis to explain a further more difficult to understand concept. So I'm just giving a simple concept first, and then I'll build on top of that. So this is a vertex which is red in color, this is a vertex which is blue in color, and this is a vertex which is green in color. And in between, the color is interpolating from red to blue, and from red to green, and from blue to green, right? Making sense, na? So this is an example of how, if you assign different colors to the vertices and you are shading, as you know, it means to smoothly color something. When you say shades of grey, then you are moving smoothly from one shade of grey, which can be very dark grey, which is black, to white. So shades of grey mean that you are moving from one shade to another, right? Making sense, na? So over here, you are moving from this shade, which is blue, to red, and from red to green. So this is one example of a shader, and because it's the vertices to which colors are being assigned, so this is an example of a vertex shader. Makes sense, na? Of course, now I'll come to the next thing. Now let us say you are rendering a scene where, let's say, you have rendered a cube, and there's a light which is falling on the cube, and there's a floor, right? And a shadow has to be there on the ground. And let's say that your graphics card has the ability to simulate the light, and it has the ability to simulate a ground with a set of triangles. Then when it's in its own thing rendering a light, an object, and a ground, then the pixels on the ground, it will see whether there is a path for the light from the light source to the pixel on the ground. Makes sense, na? And if there is a path, then what is the intensity of the light on each pixel? Making sense, na? So if you have an object, then oftentimes if the light source is a broad source, not a point source, then what happens is that the corners of the shadow are not so dark. The center of the shadow is dark. Making sense, na? Right? So if I am trying to simulate this with a graphics card, with a very powerful graphics card, then I can define how big or powerful my light source is, and whether it is broad or small. I can define some 3D object, and I can define the object which is on the ground or which is behind an object which is obstructing the light. So then, for each pixel of the object, I have to decide what intensity of light touches that pixel. Makes sense, no?
So the edges will be shown in gradients.
Yeah, the edges will be in gradient, and the object, the pixels which are totally blocked by the obstructing object, they will be dark. Maybe there are other light sources also. So we have to compute the effect of the other light sources also. For each pixel, we have to determine what intensity of light from each light source is reaching that pixel, and based on that, we will change the color of the pixel.
Intensity of shadow.
Yeah, the intensity of shadow or the color of the pixel. Because it's not necessarily that it's just a shadow. It's possible that the object is a translucent object. It's possible that the pixels are pixels of the floor of a swimming pool, and the object above it is a mass of water. So as the different light sources pass through the water, each pixel of the floor of the pool and the walls of the swimming pool will have a different intensity of light or shadow on them. Makes sense, no? It's possible that the fluid is not water. It's possible that the fluid is a yellow colored fluid. You know what I'm saying? So in that case, for each pixel we have to compute its color based on the presence of obstructing objects and light sources. Am I making sense? So that shader which has to compute light and shadow, it will have to be at a per pixel level. Making sense, no? The example I gave you of a vertex shader, that depending on an assigned color to the vertex, the color of the vertices between the two vertices is different. That is a very basic and brute force kind of example. Makes sense, no? That in the real world things will always be more complex than that. But when you know that, then you know that, okay, just like from red to green, the color of the vertex is changing. The same way, the color of the pixels which are affected by a shadow or which are affected by obstructing objects will change. Making sense, na? So I told you the basic concept of a vertex shader and a pixel shader. Makes sense, na? See, right now you may not know how to implement it, but at least the concept is clear, na? The theoretical concept is clear, na? Makes sense, na? So if I show you say a 5 lines of code, you will say, ठीक है, हमें ये concept तो पता है कि यहाँ पे ये compute करने हैं और हर pixel effect हो रहा है. You can visualize it, you can get it, ठीक है? So this is the concept of a vertex shader. This is the concept of a pixel shader. And now you know कि इनकी जरूरत भी क्यों पड़ेगी. Making sense, ना? So this is a simple basic thing, but this is the reason you have GPUs that are very powerful, that may have 128 cores in them. How many of you follow Bitcoin or crypto? Raise your hands. Okay, so you must have heard that in Bitcoin and because of the rise of crypto mining, the supply of GPUs decreases. Yes. Or the price of GPUs increases a lot because crypto miners buy out the GPUs in bulk. Right? So the reason they buy the GPUs is because the GPUs have many processing cores on them. You're getting it? That at 60 frames per second, we are rendering 1920 into 1080 pixels. Then we have around 1.9 million pixels, which we are rendering 60 frames per second, and 1.9 million pixels. For each pixel, you are computing these things. You're getting it? So that is why you have GPUs with such extreme processing power. I'm making sense, na? And that is the basic concept of a shader and a pixel shader. Now, if let us say I am defining a pixel shader, I may also make a hard-coded shader that whenever I want to show the player has died, I may add a red component to all the pixels. Making sense, na? That when the player is dying, the screen looks as if it has a translucent layer of red on it. Makes sense, na? So this is a very simple case, but I can do it using a shader. Some people will say that what a ugly way of doing it, but I will say that, well, I don't need any graphic asset for this. You know what I mean? I don't even need a 1 pixel by 1 pixel bitmap for it. I am doing it purely by code. So I'm just giving you an example. Of course, the real world examples will be much more complicated, like showing the effect of ripples and waves in water, or showing the effect of different lighting in a swimming pool, or showing a bar where you have a fog machine. You know, you must have seen bars which have fog machine and neon lights. So over there, the interplay of the fog machine and the neon lights, it will create an environment which is unreal, right? That depending on which sequence of light is there, it will look like your hand is changing color, even though you just kept it on the bar counter and it's the lights which are flashing. So this is an example of a use case for a shader. Because over here, you don't need to, as an artist, make any images. Over here, purely by code and by programming, you can simulate the effect of lights and different types of lights. Makes sense, na? So this is an example of a vertex shader, a pixel shader, and why you will need it. Makes sense, na? So you know that if you are trying to create that effect, maybe you need to Google for it and do some R&D on it, right? So that's one set of things. Now, one more thing you need to know is.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, actually, the thing is, the time for the class is over, and many daily commuters have to go.
Do you want to go?
Day scholars have a bus to catch at 5:30.
Okay. See, if a few people want to be there, they can be there. If the ones who need to leave in another, what is the time right now?
It's 5:20.
5:20. Sir, the class is supposed to be of 2 hours.
See, the reason I am talking is not because I am making any profit from it, but because I thought that I should try to give you the maximum I can share.
Sir, we understand that, but that's bus to catch.
So let me take. Can I take 2-3 minutes?
Yeah.
Or 5 minutes till 5:25, and then I'll stop.
Yeah.
It's 5. 20 right now, na? Right? So okay. So now that is a pixel shader and a vertex shader. Now, if I am going to process each pixel based on the lights. Excuse me, please baat mat karo. Please, it's a request. If I am trying to process each pixel based on the light, then there has to be a sequence of steps through which I am putting it. Make sense, na? Make sense, ना? कि एक पॉइंट आएगा जब मैं कहूंगा कि इमेज पे और सारे ऑपरेशंस मैंने कर लिए, अब मैं लाइटिंग कैलकुलेट करूंगा. It makes sense, ना? So this sequence of steps, और मैं कहूंगा कि पहले मैं वर्टेक्स के कलर्स इंटरपोलेट करूंगा, रेड टू ग्रीन, ग्रीन टू ब्लू, फिर बेस्ड ऑन द ऑब्जेक्ट्स व्हिच आर इन द सीन आई विल डिसाइड कि कौन से ऑब्जेक्ट पे कितनी शैडो पड़ती है. Makes sense, ना? It makes sense, ना? So पहले I have to do the vertices, then I have to work with the pixels. Right? It makes sense, na? Maybe I want to overlay some image on top of the scene, like a UI of image. So, and after I have done all this, I will overlay some image onto the scene. Right? I may have a different set of steps also, but there is a logical sequence in which these steps are done. Makes sense, na? So that sequence of steps is called the rendering pipeline. Getting it? जैसे पाइप में होता है ना कि एक लिक्विड आता है और फिर एक बबल आता है, तो the bubble will be behind the liquid which is entered before it. So this is the concept of a rendering pipeline. Makes sense, na? With Unity, you have something called a universal rendering pipeline, which is the default pipeline for all the programs. There is also something called a HDRP or high definition rendering pipeline. That if I have a very powerful graphics card, that let's say I have a computer for which I have spent ₹1 lakh and a 30,000 rupee graphics card in it, then obviously my graphics card is more capable. And I can, if my game has a lot of realism, then I can request Unity to let me use the high definition rendering pipeline or HDRP. Let us say I am making something which is going to be output as WebGL, like a mini 3D game which is going to be played inside an ad screen in a browser, right? So that has to be very lightweight, because it may even be playing on a mobile. So in that case, I have something called a LWRP or lightweight rendering pipeline. Makes sense, na? So I have a HDRP high definition rendering pipeline. I have a LWRP or lightweight rendering pipeline, and I have a URP or a universal rendering pipeline. Makes sense, na? And both these things are like variants of that. Makes sense? So now you know what is a vertex shader, what is a pixel shader, what is a rendering pipeline, what is a high definition rendering pipeline, what is a lightweight rendering pipeline, what is the universal rendering pipeline. Makes sense, na? So I hope this has been digestible. I have recorded the audio of what I was saying, assuming that my phone did not get a call or run out of battery. So if I have the audio, I will give you all the audio. Makes sense, na? Yes. I will write a URL for you people. Have they switched off the lights? Acha, they've switched off the projector? ठीक है. Then? Okay. Can you just make it come alive? It's 5:24. I'll take a minute to just show one final thing. So what I'll do is that I have a site. Yeah. Pardon me? Okay, go. Yeah. You don't have to ask me if you want to speak. All of you can leave. If 5 or 4 or 2 people want to speak. So what I do is I have a site, nalinsavara.com. Did you get my name? Yes. Nalin Savara. If you read it backwards, it's Ravas Nilan. nalinsavara.com/Munjal. I will make a folder. Make sense? So you can visit nalinsavara.com/Munjal, and over there I'll try to put up the materials from today's class. Makes sense, na? So I'll put up the zip file. I'll try to see if the audio has got recorded, and I'll put up the audio. Makes sense, na? And if I can make some notes out of what I said, I'll put that. Okay, na? So when I go away, you can listen to the audio later, and it will refresh a lot of things. Makes sense, na? Well, I, as a person, I'm not into paying attention. I'm more into doing it. So when I hear something, I forget. But when I'm doing it and I hear it again, then I remember. Makes sense, na? So okay, all the best, folks. Rush on.
So can you repeat the name of the website?
Nalin, Nalin, Savara, SAVARA.com /Munjal. Right now that page does not exist. Okay, so I'll make that page, and I'll put a Google form also, so you can enter your name, numbers, and Gmail IDs, because I have a bot. Where by WhatsApp I can send you URLs. Makes sense, na? So then if you people have questions, and assuming I'm taking more classes, then I can use the bot to set up a one-to-one channel with everybody. Makes sense, na? Even if you get my number, try to send me a WhatsApp message. Don't phone me randomly. That is my only request, because even on a evening, even on a Sunday, I may be busy. But if you are sending me a message, I will always do my best to respond. One more thing you can do is that, I don't know how many of you are on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like a professional site for resumes and professional connects. You can add me on LinkedIn. I am linkedin.com/in/ns. linkedin.com/in/ns. Makes sense, na? So okay, anybody has to go rush. अगर तुम्हारी बस मिस हो गई होगी तो आई एम सॉरी, मैं तुम्हें हेल्प नहीं कर पाऊंगा, और फिर तुम सब मुझे गंदा फीडबैक या अच्छा फीडबैक नहीं दोगे, तो इसलिए रन. Welcome. If anybody wants toffees, you can pick up one toffee. कोई बंदिश नहीं है. एक I am bad with faces, मैं सीधे भूल जाता हूँ, because my mind is always lost in unity and 3D visualization. But if somebody reminds me that hello, we have met here or I was in a class, so I will remember. Normally नाम जिसके मैं सुन लेता हूँ मुझे याद होता है. Please others, because जिनकी buses मिस होंगी वो सब मुझे कई गाली ना देंगे. और उनके combined negative feedback से I will not be invited here again. That's good, yeah. Now I know the campus. बस अंदर आने लगे, तो मैं भी बस पकड़ने. If some people are hostlers and they want to sit longer, they will sit. But everybody wants to catch the bus, just run. भाई अपने बस पकड़ने की पकड़ लो यार, भागो. नहीं मतलब देखो, I say one thing, carry on भाई. I'm not holding you back, ना? हाँ, because already it's 5:30 for that. Everybody who wants to sit and listen for 5 or 10 minutes more, you can listen. But those who have to rush, I will not hold them back. So I'll say one more thing about technology. How many of you have used the VI editor? Okay, you have used it. What's your name? जोर की बोलो यार, जोर की बोलो. Manikanta. Got it. Now I will remember it. So let me give you a topic. So I'll tell you something. That the guy who invented the VI editor, can you catch it? The guy who invented the VI editor, he was one of the co-founders of Sun Microsystems, the company that invented Java programming language. So he said about programming that programmers tend to be nice creatures, because after they start their day late, they can literally know that they have 10 more hours the whole night until the next morning when the next day to work. Because this is that just like you can move things around the same way, you can move things around at a time on a time horizon. And when you are doing a programming project, many times it takes you hours to just set up. And if you break it at that point, your concentration is broken. You will again need to spend 3-4 hours to reach that point of focus. So I am not saying कि तुम रात-रात भर काम करो, क्योंकि मुझे उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता. But you getting that feeling of focus. So a lot of people in India at least, where there is a culture of bureaucracy and government jobs being aspirational, will from a very young age have the sense that tomorrow time, but when you are in that zone, you will never actually get to push and develop your programming skills to the best. Makes sense. Huh? So obviously, developing programming skills is not everybody's priority. You getting what I'm saying? अच्छा, excuse me, आप लोग अगर बात करो आप बाहर बात कर लो, मैं इनको कुछ बता रहा हूँ। अब क्योंकि मुझे भी जाना है, तो I just complete what I'm saying. तो because if you are trying to be a great programmer ना, हाँ, you actually need to focus and develop it. You know what I'm saying? Like when the worst of match-making politics were happening in the Indian cricket team, na, there was one man whom the coach would see even abroad, would be out of his bed at 5 a.m. and he would never stay partying late and he would be practicing at 5 a.m. Guess what that cricketer's name was? Kya? No, Sachin Tendulkar. So the coach and the physiotherapist said कि ना इससे पहले ना इसके बाद हमने इस लेवल की इंटेंसिटी देखी. You're getting what I'm saying? So, because if you really want to be good at something, you have to be willing to and desirous of being world class. I'm making sense, na? मतलब मैं डांट नहीं रहा, but I'm just sharing a perspective and trying to share bits of pieces which inspired me when I was back in the day in your shoes. Makes sense, na? So, chalo, all the best.